Hello everyone, and welcome to another XCOM 2 challenge run. This time we're going to see how quickly we can beat the game. Now we're not doing a traditional speed run which usually measures time in real life, we're measuring by in-game time. See, there's an achievement for the game if you can beat it by July 1st in the base game, and July 15th in the War of the Chosen expansion. It's called Exquisite Timing, and we're trying to get that Steam achievement today. As always, I do live stream most of my challenge runs on Twitch, and you can catch the archived streams on my second YouTube channel. Links to both of those are in the description below. And also, I've started including a list of the regular mods I use in the description too, so you can check that if you're interested. Anyway, the rules for this run, we're playing on Commander difficulty. The achievement specifically requires you to play on either Commander or Legendary, so I can't get away with Veteran today, that's a bit of a bummer. And we're playing on Honest Man, which means we can only reload in the event of misclicks and glitches. And actually, that's it for today. No rule number 3, we're just going to play the game normally and see how quickly we can do it. And I should say here, I know you can rush to the end of this game by just skipping every mission and letting the Avatar project fill. We're not going to do that. We want to conquer the aliens and beat the game properly. So on with the run. I've made sure to start at Skirmisher HQ as their ability to increase construction speed on the strategic layer is going to be really helpful. Now I made it to the second mission on my first attempt at this run when our skirmisher Sleepwalker fell in battle. He's really too valuable to lose at this stage, so I restarted. And then I restarted again, and again, and again. I just keep getting rubbish luck with pod placement and activating both pods on the first mission at the same time. And I even did the same thing on the attempt that ended up being the main one. Just really rotten luck. So we've got 6 bad guys and we're only able to take out 3 of them on our turn. The remaining 3, including the captain, somehow all miss. Now I was honestly prepared to restart again on this one, but maybe we have a chance. Our 3 rookies then all make their shots, a 78%, an 85%, and a 74%. That's a little under 50% chance of making all 3 of those shots, so our rookies did really well here. We actually came out with a flawless victory. That was crazy, I did not expect that. Now the strategic layer is where the real action is on this run. It's going to make or break our success. I immediately go for the alien biotech research, and when that's done, I'm going to do the Advent Officer autopsy. That will allow us to build the proving ground as quickly as possible, which we need for the Skulljack. I also avoid constructing any facilities for now. We only start with 1 facility slot free, so we want to leave it vacant for the proving grounds once that autopsy is done. Prioritizing story research is key in this run, and it's going to make things really difficult as we progress. As in, we won't be able to research new weapons or armor for ages, or possibly even at all, because we're going to be too busy doing story research. I also only purchase a flashbang and forego the usual medikit. I suspect supplies are also going to be an issue on this run, so I'm wanting to avoid any unnecessary spending. Now our first scan reward is an engineer, and this is awesome. Having an extra engineer so quickly will allow us to excavate and build facilities like the Shadow Chamber much earlier than we would have been able to otherwise. And then our first guerrilla op will give us an engineer too, so we really want to win this. Now if we don't, it's not the end of the world since we did pick up that extra engineer, but this will give us a massive advantage having 2. Now that being said, look at the distance we have to cover, and we've only got 7 turns to get there. Now this would be tight to reach in time just by double dashing every turn, let alone having to deal with any bad guys along the way. So I guess it's a good thing we got that extra engineer, as I'm not liking our chances on this mission. So with reckless abandon, we charge our soldiers forward. I don't care about cover or enemy pods or anything else. We just need to close as much distance as we can, as quickly as we can. Now thankfully we get a good number of turns of just sprinting before we encounter our first pod. And when we do see them, we get really lucky. A grenade causes an environmental fire which sets the trooper alight. This means we can just ignore him and push forward with the rest of the squad since his burn is going to end him on the next turn. And Drifter can use Slash to finish the captain while still advancing forward, so that didn't cost us too much time. We reached the device to hack just in time, and now we just have to deal with the remaining bad guys. Now, easier said than done, the game decides to drop a priest and 2 stun lancers in on us. That's pretty horrific for the second mission of the game. And also, did I mention we're fielding 2 rookies on this squad? So yeah, this is going to be interesting. Now thankfully all 3 enemies have clustered together so we can do some big damage on them with grenades. This was definitely a tough mission, but we somehow made it through with another flawless victory. We're 2 missions in and this run is already insane. With the Captain Autopsy done, we begin constructing the Proving Ground and we go for Resistance Communications as our next research. We're going to need this in order to reach the Black Site mission. We're also excavating as much of the Avenger as we can, partly to clear space for more facilities, and partly because excavating gives us supplies. And unless there's something super valuable as a scanning reward, I'm just staying at Skirmisher HQ to increase our construction speed. This actually increases excavation speed as well, so it's proving really helpful. Mission number 3 has the Horde sitrep, and we actually lose our rookie on this one, Notch. He didn't make it in the no cover run either. Feels bad. Now the loss was a combination of things. Our sniper K-Barb wasted his turn by missing a 93% shot against the Lost. The terrain was bad, so our squad couldn't provide much cover to Notch as he headed to the VIP, and a Lost pod spawned right on top of him. Like between him and the rest of the squad, these zombies just appeared out of thin air. It makes absolutely no sense, but there's nothing we can do about it. And on top of all that, when the Lost did appear, not only did they not miss with their attacks like they normally do, we had 2 of them roll for maximum damage. RNG really had it in for us on this one. And I actually can't remember the last time I lost a soldier on one of these types of missions, but it's happened here, so definitely not as good as the first 2 missions there. Once the scientist has evac'd out, I stick around with the remaining 3 soldiers. We camp in a 2nd floor building and cut off all the paths up to us. We can then take our time blowing away Lost like it's going out of fashion. And the reason for this is simply XP. Getting high level soldiers in the timeline we're working on is going to be really difficult. It's actually super easy to do in the base game, but War of the Chosen is a different story, and I'll elaborate on that later on. But for now, we end up wiping out 79 Lost, and I could have easily kept going, but I just got really bored. Now I was hoping to get to the Black Site before the retaliation mission, but no luck. So in we go, and I decide to leave Sleepwalker at home for this one. Now this may sound like a crazy idea since he's a skirmisher, he'll do extra damage to the Chosen. But I'm thinking the Black Site will be available in 2 days and I want to hit it as quickly as possible. So I decide we're going to save our skirmisher for the Black Site. Instead we send a Grenadier, a Specialist, a Ranger and a Rookie out on the retaliation mission. What could possibly go wrong? Well, pretty much everything you would expect. The Assassin is our first Chosen, which is bad enough, but she has some horrific abilities on top of that. She ignores our Overwatch, and she can enter Overwatch herself at the end of her turn. This is really brutal. Now her weakness is Groundling, and I can't imagine that's going to be all that helpful to us. Then we have a pod active, a Faceless is gunning for us, and the Assassin has dazed Bismarck. So I decide we're going to leave him dazed and bait the big blue lady into extracting knowledge from him. I know this cost me big in the first sharpshooter run, but here the run will be close to complete before any of the Chosen can launch a base defense anyway, and I figure her getting some intel now is better than a squad wipe. And I could have evac'd, but Drifter was in stasis from a priest, so it would have meant leaving him behind and he probably wouldn't have made it. So I think this was the best of a bad situation. And once the Assassin is gone, we can clean up the rest of the Advent forces quite easily, so we win the mission and everyone makes it home. Not a bad outcome, all things considered. At the first council drop, we gain the Modular Construction Resistance Order. This will increase our construction speed by another 25%. This is going to be a really good ability to have for this run. And now it's time for the black site. I've bonded K-Bub and Sleepwalker. Regular viewers will know I'm not a huge fan of bonds, but on this run, we need every advantage we can get. And the black site is actually the reason I was alluding to before, that getting this achievement in the base game is much easier than in War of the Chosen. See, originally, XCOM 2 didn't have a will mechanic. That was introduced in War of the Chosen. So in the base game, you can send a squad out on the black site. There's no Chosen to deal with, so the mission is automatically easier. You can wipe out all the enemies, evac without grabbing the vial, and the black site mission will still be sitting there for you to play again. You can then deploy the same soldiers on it straight away and rinse and repeat this process as much as you like and get your soldiers to a super high level. Now sadly, we don't have that option. Our soldiers will suffer will loss and they will be rendered useless. Plus, there's the invisible psychopath with the katana trying to annihilate us, and that makes the mission much more difficult. I mean, I don't even want to do this mission one time, let alone multiple. But regardless, we wipe out the first pod quite easily, and that of course triggers the assassin. Having to face this lady 2 missions in a row is kind of soul destroying, I do have to admit, but we'll do our best. And at this point, I figure we have 2 options. We can either wait on the roof and let her find us, or I can go scouting hoping to flank her and reveal her on our turn. This will give us the drop on her, might make things a bit easier. But it of course runs the risk that we could activate another pod while we do it. So I decide the best option is just to move forward slowly, and maybe we'll get lucky and oh wow, look at that, she's right there. Yeah, we got lucky. And what's even better, because of groundling, our low-level soldiers still have a great chance to hit her, so I guess it was a good weakness for her to pick up after all. I use our extra bonded action to give Sleepwalker an extra attack, since he'll do the most damage, but then this leaves me with another tough decision to make. K-Bub can either use a pistol shot or a grenade. Now the assassin has 4 HP left, so we would either need to roll max damage on the pistol and score a crit, or we'd have to roll max damage on the grenade. And honestly, neither of those 2 things seems terribly likely, and I figure if we use the pistol shot, we'll have the grenade up our sleeve for later, it may come in handy. So we shoot, and we do actually get the crit, but we only roll 3 damage. This means the assassin survives to not only call in a trooper and attack Sleepwalker, but she also gets to go into Overwatch. But even so, activating her on our turn has still been really helpful. See, she only has a single point of HP left, so we can hit her with a grenade from beyond line of sight, and now we have no assassin and no Overwatch to have to worry about. We got really lucky here. We keep moving forward and we find a pod of a captain and 2 stun lancers. Now given we only have 4 soldiers and we only have ballistic weapons, 2 stun lancers and a captain is actually pretty terrifying. But thankfully we do Overwatch ambush them, and then on our turn our team does make some really clutch attacks, and we actually take this pod out without taking any damage. That was really fortunate. However, our good luck quickly diminishes. I knew things were going too well. You know that pod of a mech and 2 troopers that you always find inside the main building on this mission? Well, on this run, for some reason, they're not inside the main building. They've gone outside. Now, I've played dozens, if not hundreds of campaigns in XCOM 2, and I cannot remember this pod ever being outside that building. It's just one of those universal constants like the sun rising in the morning or Bethesda games having bugs. These guys are meant to always be inside that structure, so finding them here has really caught me off guard. Now it takes our whole team just to get rid of the mech, but I'm super glad we have. If that thing had hit us with rockets, we'd be in huge trouble. Now both of the troopers fire at Sleepwalker, but thankfully both miss. That was also really clutch, as a single shot probably would have finished him off. On our next turn, we are able to take out the troopers, but in the process we activate a sectoid, stun lancer, and another trooper. This is really bad. Our grenadier Groot Farmer has the flashbang, but his options for cover are pretty limited, so I end up standing him out in the open terrain so I can guarantee the flashbang will hit the trooper and the stun lancer. And sadly, this decision ends up costing Group Farmer his life. The sectoid takes the easy shot and lands a crit. He's gone. Now we are able to take down the pod without suffering any further injuries, and it's only because our squad made a ridiculous number of difficult shots. I mean, K-Bub finished off the trooper with a 37% shot. So our team held it down really well here, and this rotten pod placement could have easily squad wiped us, but we were able to escape with the vial. And it wasn't until after the fact I realised that I should have taken Group Farmer's body with us to keep the flashbang grenade. All the enemies were dealt with by that point, so there was no reason not to do it. I genuinely just forgot. And I don't want to spend the supplies on another one, so there's going to be no flashbang for us, at least for the time being. I'm sure that decision won't come back to haunt me. Now the supply raid is pretty crazy. Advent's deploying Vipers and Purifiers by this stage, and our level 1 weapons just aren't doing enough damage. However, we have been given a saving grace. This mission has the sit rep that adds explosive containers all over the map, so a well-placed grenade allows us to one-shot the first pod. They really shouldn't have stood next to that container. We then Overwatch ambush the next pod. We take down the Purifier, which explodes, damaging the other Advent soldiers. We also finish the Stun Lancer with Overwatch. This is going really well. And we actually wanted the captain to survive so that we can Skulljack it on our turn, so this turned out perfectly. Okay, scratch that. Drifter still has an Overwatch shot. Please miss. Please miss. Yes. Finally, Drifter's incompetence is coming through for us. So we use our Templar to Skulljack the captain, and yes, we've put the Skulljack on a Templar. I know it's a bit unusual, but we're kind of desperate here. I couldn't afford to bring a specialist as they're just not powerful enough in the early game. Now we can't take the Codex down in one turn, and due to not having a flashbang, it obviously clones. I cluster a bunch of troops together to bait the psionic bomb. This is better than getting shot at. We then finish the Codex on the next turn, regroup, reload our weapons and push on, and the rest of the mission goes off without a hitch. Now I guess it's a good time to check back in on our Avenger facilities, and it's honestly a bit of a mess. I didn't plan ahead well enough. Actually, I didn't really plan ahead at all. So anyway, you can see I've excavated a lot of areas. I've also rushed the Resistance comms as well as the Shadow Chamber. We need the Shadow Chamber to complete story research, and we need a comm station to reach the story missions once they've been unlocked. I've also made 2 power stations, but I'm not sure this was a good idea. I may have been better off rushing to unlock a power coil and just building 1 power relay on that, but whatever, it's too late for that now. And I've also started work on a lab, which I normally never bother with, but research times are going to be a huge bottleneck for this run, so anything we can do to make our scientists work faster will be a help. And because I'm having to prioritize all these unusual facilities, it means I've had to forego things like the GTS and the Resistance Ring. We just don't have the power, or the supplies, or the engineers required to build these things. However, thanks to the resources we picked up on the supply raid, as well as selling some corpses, we can begin constructing a Spark. Now, Sparks are probably the only units that have any chance of leveling up all the way in this run, seeing as they don't require any downtime for will loss. So we want as many as we can get. We can only afford 1 right now, but I'll be making another as soon as possible. Then we have one of those Resistance faction missions where you have to wait for Evac to arrive. The Shadow Chamber is telling us there's only 5 enemies on the map, so I'm assuming such a low number means the assassin is going to show up. And just imagine being stuck on a mission with the assassin hunting you, and all you can do is sit around waiting for the evac to arrive. This doesn't sound like it's going to end well. But it turns out I'm wrong, and there is no assassin. These missions just start with a small number of enemies because of the multiple reinforcements that come in. And speaking of, I run in to rend this Viper, which puts us too close to the VIP and activates the reinforcements before I'm ready. So not great, but despite that fact, we still trounce all over the bad guys as they appear, and we make it out of this one just fine. Before long, we've unlocked both the Forge and Psionic Gate missions. That's pretty crazy, given we've still got a max of 4 soldiers and only ballistic weapons. So as we're trying to expand to the regions housing those missions so that we can play them, we get a retaliation. And even better, the Warlock appears since it's the first outing in his territory. Now we are fielding 2 sparks by this stage, so I'm feeling pretty good about this one. I think we can take it. Yeah, so check this out. We've just finished dealing with the first pod when the Warlock summons in a spectral zombie on us. It moves right on top of us and activates Rupture. Now this in of itself is fine, but the resistance fighters, you know, the people who are supposed to be our allies, yeah, they decide to open fire on the zombie and blow it up. And since it's right on top of our troops, we get blown up as well. And there was nothing I could do about this. Having an exploding enemy that can not only spawn right on top of you, but can also be detonated before you have the chance to do literally anything is really unfair. And look what happens the second time he summons one in. I had expected it, so I placed 3 out of 4 soldiers on Overwatch. They all miss at pretty much point blank range, so it activates Rupture again, and the resistance fighters start shooting at it again. Now thankfully they missed this time, but the problem here should be pretty apparent. We're on low health, and any attack from the enemy could easily finish our Templar and both our Sparks. So not only can we not get close to the bad guys because they could one-shot us, we can't get close to our allies because they might one-shot us. And how the heck am I supposed to protect people that we can't even get close to? It's impossible. So we're basically forced to creep forward while the resistance have to fend for themselves. And you've seen how incompetent these resistance people are, so you can probably guess how they go trying to defend themselves. Yeah, it's a total slaughter. But it gets even better. You want to see something amazing? Now I've had a few people in the past tell me that Faceless will never target civilians, only XCOM soldiers. To those people, this is what I have to say. So yeah, Faceless most definitely can attack civilians. And one more civilian loss and it's over. And with that information in mind, that smug, skullet-covered aims his rifle, yeah, the same rifle he never uses, and we lose the mission. I cannot fathom what a miserable encounter this was. Nothing but unfair garbage from the get-go. And losing this region means there's no way in the world we can finish the campaign in time. We'd have to make contact again, we'd have to build the radio relay again. We just don't have the time or the resources for that. So the Warlock has once again ruined a campaign. And after this experience, I really don't want to retry this challenge. I mean, we were 5 hours in and the game just threw us an unwinnable scenario, so that entire 5 hours is rendered redundant. What's to say if I did restart, the same thing wouldn't happen again after another 5 hours? And it's times like these I think perhaps I have to alter my honest man rule. Instead of reloading in the cases of glitches and misclicks, maybe I can reload in the event of complete XCOM BS. But that's a slippery slope, so I'd rather avoid doing that for now. I mean, if we were towards the end of the run, I might, but we're in the middle game where restarting is going to be really tedious, but the end isn't really in sight just yet. So I'd rather just say, to heck with this challenge, it sucks, I'm done. And I guess that means there's only one thing left to do.
I'll leave this here.
Rearming weapons systems.
But before we call it a day, do you want to know something cool? Many of you know I use the starting soldiers mod for my solo class runs so I can start the game with the type of soldier I want. But did you also know that this mod not only lets you choose a soldier's class, but also their starting rank? So if you wanted to, say, begin the campaign with a whole barracks full of colonels, you could do that quite easily. So game, you want to fight dirty? I'm not afraid of getting dirty. Yeah, that's right, game. You give me my achievement. And yes, I know this achievement is totally invalid and I don't deserve it, but you know what? I don't even care. That was the most pathetic end to a challenge run I've ever done, and I wasn't going to end the video on such a sour note. So, as far as the history books are concerned, we did it, we beat the game in the time, and we got the achievement, and that's enough for me. Anyway, if you liked the video, please consider leaving a like and a comment, as well as subscribing to the channel. I'll be back with another one soon. Thanks for watching, and until next time, have a great day.
Up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah.